thing I learned was you need to sign this power card form, this waiver form, because I saw the amount of alcohol that's coming out of your trunk, and you are signing.
I appreciate you taking the time to do this. I know you're wildly busy. I got, AI supported me with some just history on Fraser, and there's some really cool things that it dug out that I had no idea about you. So kudos.
Okay, I might not remember them either. I'm interested to hear.
Well, you've been around in a minute. I
Yeah.
was going to say, like, from a PGA standpoint, Scott Keenlyside, whom you may or may not know, he's right. So he's teaching out at Highland, and I tell you, like, when our paths cross from day to day, it's the best, because I'm old school at heart, but hearing some of his stories are unbelievable. And every once in a while, he's like, you know what my PGA number is, right? I'm like, I always forget it, but it's something like 48.
Yeah. It's one of the first, right? He's awesome. Right. I love Scott. Has he ever told you that story of when we played in the Long Beach Open?
No, please tell me.
Oh man, it was, I was probably in my early 20s, just my first or second year as a PGA pro. And, we all went over and we stayed up at Norm Jarvis's parents. They owned a hotel up there. So we all stayed up there.
Yeah.
And, we played the first round, and I think Scott, myself, and Norm were all kind of in the hunt, for the trophy. And day two, Norm went off and won the tournament, but unbeknownst to us, Norm, it's a 9-hole course, and Norm teed off the wrong tee box on the 10th hole. We had gone to go grab a sandwich or something at the kiosk. We came back and he'd already teed off. We didn't see where he hit from or what, but so we went on the tee and hit off, and we come in, and someone had reported seeing him tee off the white instead of the blue, and said, I think he's teed off the wrong tee marker. And the committee met, and Norm got disqualified. So what happened was, tied for second was Scott and I. So all of a sudden, big playoff. And Scott kind of grew up in the area, or had a history of, maybe he used to be the head pro there. But anyway, he had everybody that was up there was following Scott and cheering him on. And we went down the first hole, Scott, right? And I hit it to maybe like 30 feet, missed my putt, and he had a 20-footer, and he drained this putt. I never heard such a loud roar,
Long Beach is still reverberating to the.
Oh, it was so good. I don't think I've ever felt so happy for someone winning a tournament when it wasn't me. You know what I mean? So that was a cool moment. Yeah.
What a cool moment. I'll see him. I'll be seeing him tomorrow. I'm going to bring that up and see, see how he recalls the moment, right? Because
it might have been a longer putt. He'll say it's a 50-footer.
Sure, the fish was this big, right?
Yeah, no, great. Well, say hi for me. Yeah.
I absolutely will. He's first class, and the stories he has. And I tell you, I mean this more than I could genuinely commit to a statement. I think he still has, and is using. He played Colwood a couple days ago. I think he's still using the same golf bag, right?
Yeah. The orange power belt.
I mean, yeah, and it's the orange leather one, where the bag flaps all kind of cave in on themselves, and he's still using it.
That's awesome.
So he's got the legacy going.
Sweet.
Fraser, genuinely, thank you. The PGA BC podcast, like, this is,
pleasure.
I would consider this episode a major in the series, in the season, and it couldn't be more of a pleasure to sit down and chat with you, my friend. I welcome you to the podcast. I look forward to chatting with you.
Excited to be on, and Derek, you're doing a fantastic job, letting people in on, what PGA BC professionals do, because I think everyone just thinks they're, assistant pros or head professionals, and they're much more than that. As hundreds of them in our region and beyond. And, I'm just excited to be on the pod and to share some stories of, my experience as a PGA BC professional and PGA of Canada professional, and, just how I got here.
First class. I mean, you bring up a talking point I hadn't thought of right away. But when you consider what a PGA professional, PGA of Canada professional is now, you're a far more varied person than 20 years ago, where the path was, as you described, assistant professional, head professional, and fingers crossed general manager.
Right.
Someplace fancy. That was always the path when I was growing up. And now you look at what a PGA professional can do. I mean, we can almost ignore the monster of social media, but even in the industry, you've got reps and running tours and things that I think are important because it keeps people in the industry and excited and passionate about whatever it is they are excited about, like creating a tour and running a tour.
Yeah. Yeah. And I honestly think that, it did give me, it was just probably really good timing for me to be able to stay in the industry as a PGA professional and not feel like I was cornered into doing this or that. Like, well, if if you're not at a club, if I'd wanted to start the tour 10 years, maybe earlier, maybe that wasn't available at the time. It might have been, but it might have been, well, you're not at a club anymore. You have to stay attached to a club. So maybe I still could have done that if I, and I did start the tour essentially out of, the dark corners of the Seymour Creek Golf Center office, which luckily James Legault, awesome guy, let me use the upstairs office as the VGT Central for the first 5 or 6 years until I just got so busy with the events. We added a few more events every year. My first child came along and it was like, okay, I've got to do this or that, and trying to do both and then raise a family wasn't an option anymore. But certainly the first 5 or 6 years we lived at Seymour Creek, and that's where all the business ideas came from. And James was so supportive of me going about and doing that. So that's where it kind of all started. That's where the idea started, actually, sitting in the downstairs little cafe of the driving range there. And Scott Minnie, who was teaching with us at the time, he would sit down, we'd have a coffee between lessons. And, I guess I'd come off, my playing career was over, and, I'd struggled. I'd spent way too much money, traveling into other regions. I would teach in the summers, build up my income to get going and traveling and play. And I'd come back broke. And after doing that for 4 or 5 years, I guess I was probably a little frustrated that there wasn't more here. And Scott said, well, what are you waiting for? Get off your butt and do it. Why don't you build the Vancouver Golf Tour? I said, fine, I will. And then, I think that day I looked up, web domains, and I think I secured the web domain shortly after that. And then boom, it was, I think the next year we had our first one event, and with the idea of, we have to send more guys down to PGA Tour Q School. And so we had a big pro-am at Northview, and the winning professional would get that spot. He would earn a free ticket to go down to the PGA Tour School. And that's where it all started.
Wow. And so, I mean, that was kind of one of my bigger questions for the day, is that, I don't think you just wake up one day and go, you know what, I think I'm going to create a tour, but it might also be that simple. But by the sounds of it, it was born out of the idea of a need for something, some venue or some path to not only the tour, but just reps locally to get competitive players playing high level golf.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of always seeing Canada as, so far down the rung of, how competitive we were out there on the PGA Tour. And I just knew how many great players Canada had that I'd played with that never quite made it. And after 2 or 3 years out on the Canadian Tour and just, falling on their heads financially and saying, I've done it. I've had enough. I'm not going any further. And Bryn was probably, one of the best case scenarios for that, where he just kept continuing to get better and better. And, until he kind of got his opportunity on the Corn Ferry, web.com back then, he was so close to not even trying that. And I don't think if he'd got that spot to go to Q School, maybe he wouldn't have even tried to play on the web.com. But even after, a season on the web.com, nearly winning on the web.com, The next year he played 6 or 7 events, and that was it. He was done. He just ran out of support, ran out of money. And I'm like, man, what a shame. We need to do more. And when I wasn't in Australia, when I was in South Africa, there were just endless opportunities to play and endless opportunities to learn. And the standards just became so much higher. And that was ultimately it. It was like, we need to up our standards. We need to give more opportunities. Sure, there's lots of, smaller events, the Srixon Tour, now G&G Tour, for the young assistant pros to play one-day events. And there's lots of little one-day events to play. And there's a few 2-day events. If you're a PGA BC professional, you have the championship, you have the assistant pro championship. But my gosh, if you're not in the association and you want to become a tour player, what is there for you? Totally. And I mean, I just kept saying, not much, right? Like, maybe if you knew an in there with someone at Pitt Meadows, you might be able to get invited to play the Golden Years Open. If you're a Canadian tour player, I think you got an invite. But if you didn't have a tour card, sorry, not. It's either PGA pros or, carded tour pros. And there was a real gap. And I think that was it. Was like, I just saw a gap there for the young players who were coming out of college, didn't really want to become an assistant pro or a teaching pro or a head professional. They wanted to play golf. And there just wasn't a foundation there for them to come from college golf without going to the Q school for the Canadian Tour, either getting it or not. And if they did get their card, which was a bit easier back then, well, where's the money? Do I have that 30, 40, 50,000 to go a whole season without thinking about every single shot, every single cut? And there just weren't that many that could do that and become successful that route. And that's ultimately where, the vision came from and why. And I definitely, kind of borrowed some ideas from South Africa and Australia that I'd learned from playing in those events. It wasn't anything secret. It was just try and keep the entry fees low, try and raise the purses as high as you can, and try and get as many sponsors as you can to do that. And it's been tougher than I'd ever imagined. Obviously their tours have been around for, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They've been rooted in, provincial and national support, especially in Australia, where their PGA is actually partnering with the PGA Tour of Australia, where they want the players, they want their PGA members to play in the events, to learn to become better players, and then eventually graduate on and represent the PGA as a tour member. And that's where, it's a little different here. It's not set up that way, but I wanted to set something up like that where the players have an opportunity to play multiple events and just keep preparing themselves for that Q school, whether it was the Canadian Tour Q school or for what would have been the web.com back then. So,
well, yeah. And you hit the multiple nails on the head. You always think about being a Canadian, a high level Canadian golfer. When I was growing up, it always felt like there was an excuse. Well, we can't play golf all year round or this. And if you're going to play at a high level and you got to go south of the border, well, you got to know someone because that's not cheap. And, you consider how important just playing lots of golf, but from a competitive standpoint, how do you stack up, right? And giving lots of opportunities for players to play, whether amateur or pro, but with the path going south of the border most often than not, you still got to get in the reps and you got to stack up against one another and have a resume of competitiveness. And I think looking at it that way, it's exactly what the Vancouver Golf Tour sounds like started from the onset. You're so well respected in the industry. You've done such a wonderful job with it that, title sponsors and event sponsors and day-to-day logistics and from the financial side of it, people wanting to align their brands with yours. Was there ever a tipping point where you kind of got the brand or the VGT to a level where it wasn't always a cold call? People were starting to come to you and people were proud to align with you, not only for 1 year, but future years? Because I know sponsorship at the highest levels is quite a challenge.
Yeah. And I would say probably For some, I would say I feel very safe in our partnerships, that they'll be there as long as I'm there, and as long as we're doing what we're doing, because they truly believe in, what we're trying to execute within the community. But those are personal connections that I've been very fortunate to meet. And again, from being in the industry, from being a PGA professional, for instance, my Maui Gym sponsorship is through a connection through Lynn Reed, who used to be the rep at Maui Gym, and met her at one of the trade shows in the fall, and presented her the idea, that I would love to have Maui Gym involved in the Vancouver Golf Tour, and how could we make that possible? And she said, well, I'm sure there's a way. I don't know if it's a cash sponsorship or if it's a in kind, but I'm sure you have golfers, they love to wear our brand. I'm sure we can make something happen. I'll bring it to my boss. And she brought it to her boss, and it turns out that her boss is married to someone that I'm very well connected with. I went to school with her brother, and it was a happen chance relationship that I'd actually never met him, but I was very good friends with his brother-in-law. And that was a fortunate, but it came as a result of being a PGA professional at the trade show. And that relationship has been very strong for the last 7 or 8 years. And, I thank Lynn for actually making that introduction, only to kind of joke saying, I think we might be able to work something out here, because I think, his brother-in-law quite well. But it's been a partnership. Every relationship I've had, I've really tried to win their loyalty through just hard work and executing what they are looking for in a marketing sense. And we've been very fortunate to have, relationships in the media with, our good friend Jay Janauer, who's been a blessing to the golf industry as a whole, in how he has, gone above and beyond for golf and advocated for golf as a sport in British Columbia, and what he does through Global BC. And, 20 years later, in the last 4 or 5 years, we've turned, a great friendship and, great opportunities to help brand the VGT and what we're doing into a true media partnership, where, we are actually engaging with the time around our segments on Saturday mornings, as well as on the new segments with a lot of our sponsors. And that's allowed us to, to profile them as supporting golf and advertise on a major TV station with Global BC. And that's really where it's allowed me to feel more confident about the relationships, not just being a one-off deal, that we are giving them true value for their marketing dollars, and but also allowing them to enjoy what we offer. We offer that in a smaller version of, a sponsor who's going to get involved with the PGA Tour, where they not only get recognized as, sponsoring an event or in the community, helping raise money for charities, but they get to come out and play with potentially, obviously on the PGA Tour, a superstar already. But our sell is that you're going to play with potentially the next Adam Hadwin or Nick Taylor that could be on the PGA Tour in the next 3 to 5 years. And
even look at Jeevan, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
And that's not, everybody's, I'm going to do it just because of that, but it's exciting for them to say, I was part of this journey of this young player. I got to play with them at the Vancouver Open Pro-Am. I got to hear about their story, what they've done the last year, are they going to Q school this year? If we like the player beyond how great he or she is, potentially we'll personally get behind them and sponsor them too. And that's been as fun as anything, is seeing the relationships that we have kind of developed with some of our partners, in that they've become more than just tour partners. They've actually become partners and sponsors to some of the players. In fact, J Media, who's a partner in the business for Vancouver Golf Tour, the last few years have directly sponsored AJ Ewart and now Stuart McDonald, who's on the Corn Ferry Tour. We're very proud. We have our logo, VGT logo, on Stuart's bag.
Oh, so good. Yeah.
Cool. And J Media's logos on AJ's bag. And Gatekeeper Systems, another a local sponsor of ours sponsored AJ last year on PGA Tour Americas. And when he qualified for the PGA Tour, they stepped up right behind him. And I think, honestly, and I don't know what that amount is. I know it's considerably more than PGA Tour America's amount, but I can imagine what it is. And I know when I was playing golf, if I had anyone backing me, that I felt confident that not just financially that I could succeed, but I felt like I had a team behind me that believed in me and really felt like I was secure out there and I could just go and play golf and not worry about financial worries or troubles. And I truly believe that and the partners, Beatty, has been with them since day one, since being a member of Vancouver Club. They've been on board since day one, and they're still on his bag and shirt, I think. And that's a true testament to local, companies that have believed in an individual and believed in the dream, and are now seeing the merits of it with his play on the PGA Tour.
Phenomenal. I mean, that's organic grassroots through and through. And I think for someone like yourself, who's clearly passionate about not only the game of golf, but just the competitive side of the industry and playing and enjoying and, having a path to not only to the PGA Tour, just improving and getting financial support in something that is a dream or a passion or whatever that ends up being. It's unbelievable. What would you consider is your happy place when you think about VGT? Is it having a tour that can, have this high level output of guys that end up on TV Sunday afternoon? Or is it maybe as someone that's never even really played competitive golf, but they're a good golfer and now they have this place to kind of feel support, whether it's financially or just a brand or a team behind you, right? I wonder what really gives you the warm and fuzzies on the inside when you think about what you do week to week.
I mean, I love being at the events and seeing everybody just enjoying themselves, and that goes beyond the elite professionals who are using VGT as a sounding ground for them to learn and to learn how to win and be more confident. Mike Bell, for instance, is still in the peak of his game and winning this past weekend at the Golden Years. You can just see how much it meant to him to win that event, to keep building on his confidence. But I've gotten to become good friends and known a lot of our members who have been with us for, some of them from day one, 20 years from the very first year, and they're still playing the VGT and they're still playing 20 to 25 events a year. It's amazing that they just love to compete and they love the community of what VGT has done for them, and organized competition, and within maybe their division that they've gotten to know another dozen players in that division, and that's their circle, that's their playing circle, that they all go off and do their practice rounds. I have a lot of pride in seeing some of them that I'm not necessarily saying I would never have thought that they could have gotten there, but they're now in the senior division, and a number of them qualified to play in the senior BC amateur this weekend or this week on the island. And that's amazing. Just the fact that they're out there representing us, and just, I know that the fact that they've just become tournament tough, and they've learned to play tournament golf and learn how to hold putts because they've just had so many more opportunities here, I think, on the Lower Mainland than potentially other regions of BC or other provinces. And I get excited when I look at that qualifier, the Zone 3 qualifier, I think it was, and I look at, I think 16 qualified, and I'm like, there were seven of our members got through that. That's amazing. And not all of them. There was a couple that I would said, yeah, they're making it regardless. And I'm like 4 or 5 of them that broke, I think 80, that I'm thinking that's not happening, right? But they find a way, and that excites me. I mean, it's hard to match seeing one of your graduates, whether it's Adam or Nick or AJ, any of these guys that, I mean, I was in tears when I saw Nick train that 70-footer.
100%.
I still.
Well, and you wouldn't be the only one either, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Yeah, that's truly, and I know that there's dozens of, volunteers and team members that have been with VGT that also feel that too, watching that TV. And, I think we engage more when our players are in the hunt than possibly even the majors. It could be a, secondary event, and just watching them hunt for a win and a trophy, AJ winning the Q school. Like, we're like just glued to the TV,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll make a case for, of course I'm going to tie it back to hockey, but the thing that becomes glaringly obvious when you talk about what you're talking about and seeing, it could be an offset event for the PGA Tour, whatever it is, but it's not, it's more about a player doing well. It's because their aunt and uncle, and
Mhm.
what kind of car they drive, and that it breaks down 6 days a week. And it's, these people as people, and it's so much more than seeing the Dallas Stars win the Stanley Cup. It's about the people
Right.
that are, the captains from Victoria, and you see them at the PI from time to time, right? Like
Yeah.
you just get this understanding that it's more than just the player. It's their entourage, it's their people, and it's all their coaches that got them to where they're going. And it's it's unbelievably fulfilling, especially as Canadians. That's how we are. We put our people in a room with us together, and we cheer for them.
Yeah.
And it's a fantastic thing about what you're doing and what you've done. There is a massive difference between a very good golfer, let's call him +1, okay, scratch, whatever, and someone that is a 2 or a 3 handicap but plays competitive golf regularly. I would make the case that those people are the hardened golfers, and the ones that have games that can travel. They have the ability to beat almost anybody any day. There's a massive difference between a good golfer and a person that plays competitively quite a bit. Is there anything that you say or would see as being a reason behind that?
I just think that the player that has a, call it a plus one index, a traveling +1 index that
Yeah,
competes and still has a +1 index versus a member of a club that is a +1 index that plays
right.
90% of their golf at their home club, is that they've learned to do it on multiple venues and have understood how to play golf, not just how to play their own golf course. And that's honestly, when you look at a PGA Tour player that's a +7, +8 across, not just playing multiple golf courses in different regions, but in the conditions that they're
Mm.
set up in are extremely difficult. Um, and I would say that's the other reason too, is if there's a +1 who plays tournaments, the setup for tournaments is more challenging than an everyday Monday to Friday country club setup. And so, that would be the other reason, is that they're playing on a more difficult setup, not their home club. They've learned how to shoot the same score to get a +1 as someone who's playing their home course and knows every little angle of
Hmm.
the golf course, where to cut the corner, which side of the fairway to come in from, that gives the best angle, which part of the bunker to hit it into or not hit into. And you really have to travel to get to know those other golf courses. So if you take both those players as +1s and you go play a foreign golf course, the tournament player who's played all over the place is going to win 90% of the time, because
Yeah.
they've learned how to play and how to shoot a score
Yeah.
versus just playing their home course. Yeah.
And isn't that what golf, and I always talk about this, but even from a beginner's standpoint, don't ever lose sight that the point of this sport is to have fun,
Mm-hmm.
but it's also to take the little ball and put it in the hole. And so, someone hits a bad shot and it ends up in the fairway. Oh, there's no pictures on the scorecard. We've said that a million times when we play
Yeah.
golf, but the ball has to go into the hole in as few strokes as possible. So golf the ball, play the game, and make that happen. And you see a golf course differently when that's, talking about cutting the corner and hitting it over the third tree from the right on your home
Right.
course. It's fine, but you only get to do that in one golf course, and being able to golf a golf course is an exceptionally unique skill. And then, as you say, layer in, 12-5, 13-5 greens or whatever it is on the
Right.
stim meter, and, you know, course conditions and people watching, and it took you 3 hours and a layover, and, you've got an upset belly from the plain food, and like all these things that you just can't fathom. And then you got to go do it a bunch of days in a row.
Yeah. And that is truly a remarkable skill set, I think. And that's someone who might think they've got a chance, to become a PGA Tour player. And I would never push anyone away from thinking about it. But I think that the realistic notion that someone who's a scratch golfer can go and play tournament golf at the highest level and make money at it is far from the truth. And and it's because of that, because trying to take a +1 or even a scratch golfer, going off to week in, week out, changing the dynamics of every golf course and potentially new, different grass types, firmness of, greens, green complexes, where all the hidden hazards are. It's an art, learning how to get there and learning in 1 or 2 practice rounds, how to figure that golf course out and then go and shoot a low number. And that takes time, and that's why very few tour players just make it like that. I do think there's a lot to be said about a young player that whether they go to a college NCAA school and get those 4 years of simulating PGA Tour play by traveling and playing a dozen or more tournaments a year, and learning how to play different golf courses, different grass, or in GVen's case, being guided and funded by Golf Canada for the first 2 or 3 years of his young pro career. But if you're not funded, I just think it's incredibly difficult, and I would voice against it, to try and play with very little funding, to try and qualify and then travel, or with no status particularly, to try and go across Canada or down the States and play a bunch of qualifiers, because I think it just leads to coming right back to to where you need to regain your composure and your and confidence, because it just beats them up. And I've seen it. I've seen players that have quite a bit of skill, but maybe not the right amount of resources and not the team that's helping them along the way. And they're quick to come home, and we're here for that reason. VGT is here for them to come back to regain their confidence. But I think the better and the more traditional path is to learn to either go to college, get that 4 years of experience funded, but if you've got a scholarship, hopefully funded by the team, to travel on their dime, get coached by good coaches, work out properly, eat properly, and then come into your early stages, get to Q school. And then after 4 or 5 years, if it hasn't happened, well, it didn't happen. But I think that's a very good path to go. Or like GVen's done, if you've got the funding to go and travel and play, and get coached by Golf Canada coaching, absolutely do it that way as a young pro. Yeah. And if you don't have either, then like Ilarian's doing, Ilarian, chose through COVID hit, kind of interrupted his college career. He said, well, I guess it's time to turn pro. I'm winning everything as an amateur. It's time to learn how to do it as a pro. And he quickly did that. And he's done it as affordably as he can through us. And, he's obviously made it out there, got a Challenge Tour card, played 8 or 9 events, found it extremely expensive, and came right back and said, I don't know if I want to burn through the next 30 or 40 grand in the next 8 to 12 weeks. I think I need to come home. And he did that. And he came back to his winning form, and he's showing it again this year. He's back to winning and feeling more confident. And I'm sure he'll get right back out there and get to Q school and have more success. But, that's what we're here for, is to give them that pathway that's not so expensive, and so troubling in their first couple of years, where there's not that necessarily funding and support group behind you, until you do and maybe meet some sponsors and gain their attention and gain their support. to then go to Q school and have the right amount of means behind you and the confidence too.
Yeah, and it's an interesting time, and I have an opinion, and you know me well enough that I'm not, I wouldn't classify myself a competitive golfer, and nor did I ever really enjoy it all that much. But there was a moment when Live was in its height of disruption, and it was pulling players and causing this massive shift in the professional tour game. And what they started creating signature events, right? $20 million purses and all these things. The PGA Tour would say things along the lines like, well, we curated these pros that are now on your tour. We're very grassroots. We bring people up, we give them a platform. And it always kind of bothered me, because as they started to spend more and more money rewarding top 50 golfers in the world, I always felt like they could change lives if they took 2% of that money and funneled it way down the ladder, right? Like if you started really making purses on low end tours and then put that PGA Tour logo on it as a sponsor and turn those and double some purses, and it wouldn't take a lot of money. Now it starts to stretch out these things where it's like, listen, what's the famous, Kevin Kisner, I think, was famous for saying there's a lot of money for 20th or something like that. He said that quote.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the PGA Tour. Maybe if we could just get it down a bit to say, there's decent money for 20th on XYZ tour.
Right.
I don't know. That's always just kind of been in the back of my mind. I wish it was wasn't always just top down. It was a little bit more grassroots, like.
For sure. I'm totally with you there, that I do believe that there could be more support, coming from above to feed into even the Corn Ferry and then into PGA Tour Americas, where it's not such a struggle. It is hard enough just to get a tour card for PGA Tour Americas. It is not impossible, but it's getting very difficult with 6 different Q schools, mostly in the States, 1 in Canada, and maybe only 8 to 10 cards. Some are conditional to become a member of that tour. So if you were gifted enough to actually get one of those spots, well, now you have to endure the rigors of travel, not just across Canada anymore, but down in South America, where, I talked to Jackson Jacob, and he went down to play a couple events, and I heard some prices of hotels and travel that was ridiculous how expensive it was.
So sorry. Yeah.
And I can't imagine, how trying that is on young players who are trying to make a step from there onto the Corn Ferry and then the PGA Tour to actually make a living at playing golf when they're that good, right?
Yeah. And I don't want to, stay on the subject for
Get
too
on our
long,
soapbox.
but it wouldn't take much to just make a big difference, right? We're not talking big dollars. We're just, the cost of gas is $2, whatever. You got to offset some of that at some point.
And the hotels, from before COVID, what hotel costs were, a Canadian Tour player or PGA Tour Canada player could have probably traveled across with a buddy and spent 50 or 60 a night shared. And now it's doubled at least, right? It's hard to get a hotel under a couple $100, unless you're giving up some means there, staying in a place probably not in a sketchy kind of area, and not getting a good night's sleep. So it would be good if there was some support there, and they could play for $300,000-$400,000 purses would be nice, and instead of it being a couple $100,000, where 30th place, where you played really good golf to get in a top 30 spot, isn't just barely paying your bills for the week. That there's something that you can put away. You can have a top 30 finish every single event and lose money on that tour.
Isn't that wild?
Yeah.
We first met at, I want to say it was at G&G, and you were picking up some branded towels or something, and we got chatting, and obviously became friends after 30 seconds. And I wanted to call it that as a local tour, you were buying your tee gifts and your swag and your logoed items. You were buying them at a local company in Abbotsford and Aldergrove with G&G. So, I mean, you have consistently promoted locally, not only with your actions, but with your dollars, right? So I always appreciate meeting you in that context. If you recall just the body of work of some of the more notable players, was it right off the first time you saw them hit a ball that you knew something was special, or was it when you saw Jerry Hadwin you knew there was someone special? Or what would you describe seeing that high level talent that's been successful on the PGA Tour look like in your eyes?
I'll start with Adam, and I hadn't really, other than knowing Jerry, his father, and being a PGA member, and you know, we all know Jerry, very affable person and very easy to hang out with. And I'd only known
unless there's a Bruins game on, then he becomes
a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's great when they're losing.
Yes.
But I met Adam, you know, basically through Jerry. Jerry and Adam both decided to keep Adam locally in his first year as a professional. He had raised some money. He'd raised some sponsorship money through Morgan Creek, where Jerry was working, and the members had rallied around him. And, you know, he'd had a good last year in college, but not, you know, like nothing like Nick Taylor, who was number one in the world, you know, or approaching number one in the world at that point. But, you know, good enough that he'd you know, got some support. And I think he had enough money to go across Canada and play the Canadian Tour. I think he'd missed out on the Q School opportunity. So it was now going to be travel across Canada, Monday qualifying, or getting invitations, or stay locally, play the VGT, not burn through that 30 or 40 grand in his back pocket, just to test the waters as a pro, and not feel like, man, and that came from Adam said himself, you know, a number of times I've talked to him, he says, you know, I really didn't know if I was good enough to go and below that 30 grand. And I thought, what if I just have an okay year and I come back and I got 8 grand in my pocket? You know, I had a couple of top 20s and that was it. And what if now, like, I might be done. I might not get the next round of funding from these guys. So they made a decision to keep the 30 tucked in his back pocket, play VGT, joined membership, and entered the first, you know, 7 or 8 events. You know, he didn't win his first one. It was the Guildford Open that he played. But he had a good battle, and I think he came third. Bryn and Stu Anderson had a unbelievable battle. They both shot 16 or 17 under for 2 days. But Adam was there. He was, you know, and the thing that stood out for me for Adam was he was bordering on a little cocky, walking around, strutting around like, you know, I'm kind of king around here, and he deserved to, because, you know, the next event he went off and won it. He won the Sandpiper Open, and then next event he didn't win, but he came second, I think, and then he won the Ledgeview Open, and he won 4 times that year, and he almost won the Vancouver Open. I think Bryn won it that year, but if he played more events, if he'd stayed the whole season and not played Canadian Tour that year, he would have won the Order of Merit. Bryn ended up sticking around more locally and won the Order of Merit, but Adam then came back in the next year, and he, again, you know, he won a couple of early events, and then he won the Vancouver Open that year. And I was like, yeah, he was starting to gain confidence on the Canadian Tour, and I think he'd maybe won his first event, the Canadian Tour. I said, yeah, this kid's, he's on his way. You know, I saw something in he was very professional in how he, you know, conducted himself. He wasn't letting, you know, people rattle him. It was just, he was in the zone, chipping, putting, everything he did was, that looks pretty tidy to me, you know. And I played with him one day, and I couldn't believe how far he hit it. You know, I'm like, this guy's 5'9".
Yeah, I know. I tell you that
155
that's
pounds.
my exact takeaway too.
And he's hitting it 30 or 40 yards by me. I'm like, this little, you know. and he went off and he won I played with him in the first round of the Ledgeview, but I wanted to see personally what, you know, how he hit it, and I was very impressed. And then he shot, I think, 66 the second day, and he won the Ledgeview Open. In fact, he played with his brother that day, Kyle, who had played great the first day, and Kyle and he actually played and saw him win the Ledgeview Open that weekend, which was very cool. but yeah, I just saw the way he conducted himself, the confidence he exuded, that I thought he has a good chance. No, nothing's for sure, but I think this kid's got it. And Nick, on the other hand, is very, I wouldn't say unassuming, because he does everything exceptionally well.
Mm-hmm.
I just think from hearing stories of Nick at Ledgeview when he was a junior, and how hard he worked, and how he'd be up early on Saturday mornings at 6:30 or 7 in the morning working on a short game, and where his other friends had been out late that night, and they'd all come join at 10 in the morning, and Nick would just be kind of ready to go, guys, and just be picking their pockets. And he was just so established as a young player, winning the Canadian Junior, winning the Canadian Amateur, #1 in the world. So by the time he did hit our tour, he was an amateur. He won the Ledgeview Open as an amateur, beat all the pros. Not super surprised, but it was neat to kind of get to interview him there. And then he came back and played a little later than Adam. I think he was 2011, 12, 13. And it was just, instead of staying down in Phoenix and playing the mini tours down there, he would do that till kind of March. And then when our season started, he was up here. He wanted to, come back home, obviously, and, see mom and dad, and play we had created a major series, 2-day events. And I think that sort of lured him up to play that season. And he won 8 times in that season. And that was no one's done this before, not even Adam. And his stroke average was 66.4. And I think even Adam was in the 68. Brent had always hovered around 69 something. Adam was below that, 68. And then Nick came along, 66 something. Like, okay, I mean, if this guy doesn't break through and make it,
sure,
like,
what does it take? Yeah.
And sure enough, within a year, like, Nick won 8 times, including a couple of winter tour events. He came back in the fall, played a couple of late October, early November events. Then he went to the Q School. And within a year of him winning his last event, he not only made it to the PGA Tour, but he won his first event on the PGA Tour, like in his first 4 events. And I'm like, yeah, there you go. That's the Nick Taylor I've seen. And I was surprised, that Nick had a little bit more turbulent first 6 or 7 years in his career, where it was win, and then, oh God, my 2-year exemption is almost coming up. Oh, win again. Okay. But if he didn't have that exemption, he may have lost his card. And
right.
But I think, he obviously put the time in to work on areas of his game that needed a little bit more sharpening. And just look at his career now. He's had, other than Mike Weir, I think the second most successful male Canadian professional career. And he's not done yet. I'm sure he's thinking about, what do I need to top Mike Weir? I need a major.
Yeah.
And I need 3 more wins. Right.
Yep. Well, and he's someone that puts in the work too. And so does Adam. And it's just, gone are the days. I don't know if you've watched, have you watched the Will Ferrell, The Hawk, on Netflix yet?
I did. Yeah.
Right. Fantastic.
Yeah, I know.
And I think there's a lot, you can tell they've got, whether it's golf pros on staff or like high level golfers on staff, because there's a few subtle drops they do in there to kind of keep us all entertained. But
yeah,
putting in the work, that mentality, that culture, looking after your diet and all those things, they keep you around. But also it's your personality too, and then just how you navigate the circles of tour life and being around a lot of people a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So it's really cool.
And both these guys, both Nick and Adam, have done an amazing job off the golf course too, with their foundations.
That's my point.
And yeah, I mean, they're both incredible people. And I know they both have people assisting, and huge shout out to the committees and the people that are helping run those events for them. And but they come up, they spend the time with the sponsors, they engage. They're the reason why people show up. And they could just simply say, too much work. I'm not going to do it this year. But they've done it for, I think Nick's is coming up on the 10th anniversary, and Adam's probably a little bit more than that, 13 or 14 years. And we're excited always to take part and be involved in both those events. and just seeing what they do for the community and how much money they raise, it's outstanding. I think Adams, he's in the kind of 200,000 range and pushed that on a few occasions. And Nick, they do a gala at Nick's event out in Chilliwack, and I think last year they pushed almost $500,000.
Hooey.
It was just unbelievable. And how many young kids, backpack programs, and just those that are in need, right, in the Chilliwack and Abbotsford communities. They're really giving back to the place where they grew up, right, which is amazing.
It's an unsung part of just professional sport, and I think it's one of my favorite parts about not only being Canadian, but just knowing that people like that come through not only our channels, but just PGA golf in Western Canada. And
yeah,
I mean,
100%.
you look, I think our Team BC all time, like, golfers could do a number on the rest of the country, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Right?
It's amazing how many BC prospects and how strong our BC players have done on the PGA Tour, and now seeing Leah John is the latest on the LPGA Tour, and Tilly Claggett, I know that she kind of grew up here but then moved to Calgary. She's on her way there through winning a couple of Annika Tour events. BC's got some great golf coaches, and I truly believe that's where it all comes from, is the model, the role modeling from the PGA professionals that are in our region that are supporting those players, and the young opportunities that players get. I mean, they've played 100+ tournaments before they come play VGT. Like, honestly, between the local zones for BC Golf and all the provincial championships that they can play, and the Maple Leaf Tour and the CJGA and the junior, the Linkster Tour that I think now Brad Ewart runs, the Grizzly Tour, I think they call that. And
yeah,
I mean, you can play every single week, learn how to develop, learn how to get better, and test your skills, right from, I think, 6 or 7 years old. And that might burn some kids out, but in moderation and the right kind of coaching, it's amazing that they have those opportunities, that by the time they hit 13, 14, 15 and potentially looking for scholarships, there is, other than maybe financial means, there's not a lot of reason to think that can't be achieved, because you've been able to test it out so often and so frequently that, and I truly believe that's part of the reason why BC keeps developing, so many great players.
Yeah, and I cannot genuinely say enough how great it is to hear someone that's quarterbacking the tour in Western Canada. I think it's giving credit to the fact that it is a game and you have to go play the game. There's a lot of details to it and hard work and having a strong short game and the ability to look after yourself in your golf game, but just go play, go have fun, pressure test it, and just be around the golf course. Just enjoy the sport. I wonder if you have a little bit of advice for those people, just in a quick snapshot, to say, here's what this is all about.
I mean, like you keep voicing, is to have fun, right? Like, if you are not enjoying yourself when you're practicing and when you're trying to get better, then, maybe you need some help with, how you're going about it. If it feels only stressful, then I think you need to step back and learn to enjoy what this game gives us. It's about being there with other kids your age, having fun, I remember when I was chipping contests, putting contests, like, we weren't always allowed on the tee till a certain time. So, I mean, you got to make the most of all that time. When you get dropped off at 7 a.m, you may or may not get out there. So let's just all go have some fun. I mean, get a group of friends that all have the same, mindset of, they just enjoy being at the golf course. And if it feels like it's a job at 8 or 9 years old, then I think you have to take a different perspective. And there's nothing wrong with, being serious about your practice and taking care when you practice, and not rifling off 100 balls in 20 minutes, because I think there's ways to go around getting better. But I think, my advice might be maybe more to the parents, of the kids is, give them a break. If you're trying to preach them to be Tiger Woods, um, at the age of 7 or 8 or 9 years old, I think you need to lay off the pedal a little bit and let them go enjoy all the great things about our game, about meeting people, interconnecting, and the things that golf teaches you, the proper behavior, how to respect for the game, honesty, integrity, so many great values can be learned from the game, and so many interpersonal skills can be learned from being around older members, playing with them too. So work hard, play hard, but do not give up the enjoyment of the game. And if it feels like that, then back off a little bit.
Yeah, we couldn't agree more. So, Fraser, you're no slouch at the sport. You've been around it for a long time. I wasn't going to do this, but so AI did a little summary of your profile.
That's trouble.
I had to pick my jaw up off the ground. So here's a little snippet. With his background, over 30 years as a PGA of Canada professional, 34 pro wins, including the 2004 PGA of BC Championship, playing in the ACC, he has seen every iteration of the BC golf landscape. Now, did I Google the wrong Fraser Mulholland?
Yeah, that's another guy.
Or what runs through your mind when I read that to you?
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. You're definitely aging me when you say that.
Yeah, I could. Yeah,
but
well, we can bleep the episode.
I've enjoyed it thoroughly. It's a great industry. Anyone that doesn't have a passion to play competitively to the PGA Tour, which less than 1% probably do, it's an amazing industry to be a part of. The friendships that I've made, lifelong friendships, the fact that we get to enjoy the company of other people who just are very passionate about playing a sport we've loved to play since a young age. It's amazing. And, I think it's very fulfilling, whether it's seeing, the next G-Van pursuing his dreams to be on the PGA Tour, or, seeing some of our elder members that, just shoot a personal best, and it might be 95. They broke 100 for the first time, and seeing their enjoyment and fulfillment when they come off the golf course and, shaking their head when they don't have a good day, but, still having a beer on the patio and enjoying the company and the community that we've kind of built. Yeah, it's pretty amazing to think that I've been able to do this. And I feel very appreciative of, the support that I've been given from, the mentors that have been there with me since day one. My first head pro, Sid Dahl, was a genuine person, and he would always recommend just like, go enjoy yourself and learn how to play golf, learn how to teach golf. Those are the two skill sets that, you'll covet the most, because you can go in there and take a GM position. And if you're not the most skilled in, tournaments and playing tournament golf and teaching golf, you could, anyone from the restaurant industry or the hotel industry could take that position away if you just went for that GM role without those skill sets. So learn these skill sets, learn to be a good player, learn to be a good instructor, learn how to operate tournaments, which I learned a lot from him with that. And I learned to speak in front of people. I was given so many young opportunities at a young age to get a microphone, to do the men's nights. And that wasn't something I really, went to school for. But I was just given the opportunity so many times, I guess, like kind of playing a junior tour and, amateur circuit and VGT. I came kind of immune to the pressures of it. And, I learned to just be comfortable, as long as I was talking golf and I was talking about something I kind of knew something about. I felt very at ease with that. And, I've just been very blessed to do this for, I got in the industry. I mean, I started picking balls, out of Tsawwassen Golf Course when I was about 12 years old. And my brother and I used to, dredge the ponds at Tsawwassen. So it's been over 40 something years I've been in the industry, and loved every minute of it.
Fantastic, man. It's an interesting thing getting to talk to people that have been in the industry for a minute, because I never really heard it said like that to make sure that you have good leverage over something that you can do better than someone else. And what's one of the hardest things in the world to do is play golf well. And so if you can create a little bit of unfair advantage in the job market through not only your playing but your instruction, and happen to be a good public speaker, well then hold on, right? Like,
yeah. In fact, I met my, yeah, and you know what, giving back has given me a lot back. I served for a couple of years on the GVO when it first came into town. The idea of bringing a PGA Tour event to Vancouver was from some business people downtown, Marty Zlotnick, and a number of people who just started that idea. And one of the people on the board happened to be the vice president at IGA, and I sat on the committee. I was the coach at UBC for that year, and our athletic director approached me and said, this could be an opportunity for us to raise some money for the team. Why don't we, see what we can do? Let's go and sign up, do some volunteer work for the tournament. I think it'd be really fun. And let's do our part. And in the meantime, let's see what they can do to maybe help raise some funds for scholarships and travel. And we did that. We sat in as, we put our hands up to volunteer for a committee, and we got assigned the marshalling assignment. So he and I took that on for a couple of years, and we went to 18 different golf courses and we raffled off which golf course would win hole 18 to marshal and have line the ropes and so forth down that hole.
Oh.
And we did that for 2 years. And in doing that, that was very fulfilling. I learned a lot about, golf operations and setting a golf course up and lining the ropes. We lined the whole ropes for that tournament for 2 years. And I think the scheduling of, I think we had 600 volunteers for that first year. The scheduling of volunteers, like pulling the rope up and when the players and all that was like, wow, that was logistics behind that alone. But it was in the people who I met. I met some amazing people, got to sit in quite a few of the board meetings. And that's where I got to meet Marty Zlotnick, who was heading up the Thunderbird Golf Society at the time. He was a past UBC golf player, John McNichol, who was, on the board, and he was with IGA, and just getting to meet them and them seeing what I was doing on the back end for that event. Fast forward a couple years later, 1999, I attempted to play in the tournament to qualify for it. And I got in the tournament through the Monday qualifier. And then John, I think, stayed in connection with John through that. And he kept supporting me, not financially or anything, but just, would always send me emails. Wow, great job getting in the tournament. And I got back in 2002 and, voiced that I wanted to, go and play a little bit more, across Canada and, to Australia and South Africa. And he was there kind of supporting me, more than just sort of financially, but come and support the Pro-Am. I would do a Pro-Am to help raise some funds. And then it was him, who I wrote a letter to saying, I've got this idea. My playing days are behind me, but I would really like to try and give the players in our community a chance. And he said, send me something. I'm sure we can do something. And I got some advice, how to write a marketing, proposal, to become our title sponsor. And, fast forward 20 years, they've been our title sponsor for 20 years. And, wow. And that's all from that relationship, and all from, getting involved and, and volunteering and connecting with people.
I love it. I love it. It's everything I hoped a relationship like that would start and sound like, right? Fraser, I've got rapid fire questions.
Okay. I was waiting for this.
Yeah, right. I'm not trying to turn this into a clickbait podcast and put you on the spot too hard, but what is your favorite course to play in BC? Context being it's a Sunday afternoon and it's 22 degrees, maybe not the most competitive, focused, driven course, but just a nice little warm blanket experience.
My all-time favorite, just for like everything, challenges, difficulty is Shaughnessy. I worked Shaughnessy for a year, fell in love with it. It's, obviously not very accessible for the general golfer. I would say if there's one that I, just that I could hop on and play like every other person, it would be Fraserview. I love Fraserview. I just love it's it's wide enough open. You can tee it up all day with the driver. The front nine, there's a lot of great, birdie chances to kind of get that score done on the front nine. And then that back nine is a really good test. It's 3,700 yards long and some great par threes. And I think seeing it unfold, over the last 20 years in the Vancouver Open, I think that also makes it pretty special for me. But just the fact that anyone can go play, and it's a great price. I think it's still under $85, $90 to go play in the center of Vancouver. Such a great property, and love the finishing hole over the ravine. Test yourself to try and get home in two, with usually some people on the patio watching and either cheering or murmuring if it drops in the water.
Yeah. I'll tell you, Fraser, if there's ever a raffle to play 18 holes with you at Fraserview, please put me in that draw. I think that would be, that's now on my bucket list of things to do. The best swing on the VGT over the years that somehow just have the whole package and then just kind of didn't really want to do it anymore.
Wow.
Like here's this is a bit of a reach, and maybe I edit this out, maybe I don't, but did James Lepp play any events?
He did. Yep. He played in a few, but it was sort of post his Canadian Tour days when he'd step back and right. He started kicker golf, and right. he did play in a few of our events then. And it's a very, very talented player, tee to green. Right. I think he just was, the short game and the tour life, I think maybe got to him. One guy I think could have made it, just the way how impressed I was with his ball striking ability, and he was very close to making it. And, after a while, you just have to, you have to make a decision, was Kevin Stinson. He's just such a great ball striker, tee to green. So impressed with his play. And, I just think if he had the putting skills of an Adam Hadwin in his prime when he was making putts, or any of the top PGA Tour players, I think Kevin Stinson could have been very competitive on the PGA Tour.
And another guy,
and he's not the only one.
No, and it's not meant to take anything away from the quality of personal skill that they have. I mean, it's just a call out to, and I think Stinson is a fantastic example. Like, another individual that's first class, friendly, a pleasure to be around, to chat with, just a good human, right? And funny how that correlates with a good golf game sometimes.
But he's not.
Right?
But he's not the only. I've seen a number of players that I go, wow, 330 off the tee, and like on a rope, and I'm like, why are they not making it? Yeah. And I just think it's just not that easy. There are a number of players now, especially, fast forward kind of 10, 15 years later, that can do that, can hit it 320, 330.
Yep.
But you have to have the all around package. You can't just bomb it there. It's everything. You have to know your decision making skills have to be so good, right?
Totally. I explain it to my friends sometimes, and we'll go out and my friends will shoot in the 90s, and I'll say, listen, the difference between you and me is in skill is the distance between me and someone that plays on the Canadian Tour regularly, and the distance between them and someone that plays NCAA Div 1 high level. These distances are all equal, and the distance between that and PGA Tour is again equal. Like these massive distances in overall golf game are it's not the distance between me and, because they all think like, Derek, why don't you, like, if you tried a little harder, you could play on tour. I'm like, guys, like, this is not even like, I feel bad watching them sometimes, right? Like it's unbelievable how difficult this sport is to do it. well more than one round.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I had to travel with it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hardest golf lesson you ever had to learn yourself?
Hardest golf lesson, like technically swing lesson, or are you talking about just like in the golf,
I think industry.
in the industry? Okay. Um, I think, I thought raising money would be a lot easier. I thought I'm just going to, in my first year, we're going to be playing for this much money. And, I probably was critical of, the Canadian Tour not putting purses up big enough. And, so I think that was the first thing that I figured out was not easy, was just getting everyone to buy into, supporting, professional golf and the dreams of, young golfers. Um, we're about the 500th choice for a lot of
Yeah.
companies and individuals. There's maybe more than that, charities that people would want to support. And so that was a bit of an eye opener in my first year, was you're gonna have to work a little harder at this.
Well, kudos to you, because there's people that you've gathered in your first year that are still around, right? And so
Yeah.
it's a big landscape, right? To get the dollars and keep them. And this is the last one, but one thing that people don't understand about running a golf tour is.
Wow. Where do I start with that?
I was going to say, I'm like, I didn't realize there was paragraph answers.
Yeah. One thing, these days, pace of play. That's a challenge. A real challenge for us is the expectations of the players these days versus the expectations of the golf courses. And, they're not aligned, unfortunately. And, seeing Ryan Fox win
fantastic,
and do what he did is such an example to players, the elite players who really believe that they can't play exceptional elite golf without taking, 5 hours to play. And I think it's just made up. It's in their heads, and it's being coached, unfortunately, I think by some coaches, that if you don't do this, this, and this, you're not ready to play. And I just think it's a load of rubbish. And I hope that by watching him, step in there and make calculations prior to his turn, like he's talked about that. Like, I'm doing my calculations for my turn, but before it's my turn. And then I get over the ball and I'm ready to go. Because if I start calculating over the ball, I'm done. Because there's way too many thoughts in my head. And I think that's one thing I hope that, these young players can learn to play faster golf, more ready golf, and say, I can't shoot 63 in 4 hours. It doesn't have to take 5. That's definitely one of the bigger challenges. Let alone the challenges of, getting golf courses with the prices that have surged in the industry. That's a real challenge in the last 6 or 7 years. That our costs have gone up incredibly. It's been great for the industry. Like, it's been great for, the facility owners and the staff who are, their jobs are secure, and the teachers are all making a lot of money. For our company, it's been, other than that quick surge we had in COVID, where our membership went up, 60, 70%, and it tapered back down. It's gone up a little bit, but the challenge has been in the operating costs for sure.
We're so lucky for the golf industry that the COVID effect has sustained, but it's also created a host of challenges, right? And there's never been a higher demand on tee times, and it's very easy to put value to a tee time, because there is a value to a tee time, and how much you have to give up and gain to get not only an event like yours. I'm glad you touched on it, because it is a challenge, right? Getting just venues, right? And
but I'll give
to the relationships and giving back.
It comes back to the relationships 100%, and it comes back to, the upper management and the PGA professionals that are buying into the support and buying into what we are doing, and to those golf courses that are on our rotation, they're on there for a reason, because they're great golf courses for sure, that we love to put in front of our players and give them good tests, and that we've worked with for years, and worked in partnership with many tournaments that aren't ours, that we come in and assist with their tournaments. But it's taken a lot more selling, and a lot more, support from the media, from global, to continue to get those partnerships in place. And those that have, we thank them, endlessly for what they're doing for the community. Because if we don't have golf courses to run tournaments, then this all goes away. And when that happens, then potentially the next 20 years of generating PGA Tour players and giving opportunities just vanishes, right? And I'd hate to see that.
Yep. Well said. I've got one last question for you, and I came up with it on the fly, and I'm exceptionally proud of it. We're going to build an ultimate golfer. Okay. We've got this one person, and there's 4 facets to the game. There's putting, there's short game, there's iron play, and there's driving.
Yeah.
Driving, anything with a head cover on it. Okay. We've got 4. We need to fill 4 skill pillars. We've got yourself. We've got Double J. We've got Jay Janauer. We've got Adam Hadwin, and we've got Nick Taylor. Who do you assign to do what aspect for this ultimate PGA Tour Championship major winning golfer?
Oof. Wow. Okay.
Who's going to be the putter?
Whew.
The putt skill.
I'm going to say I'm going to give that to Nick Taylor.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, because if it's not Nick.
Yeah.
And if you threw yourself in that spot, I would be very, very impressed.
Not me. I'm going to take the tee. I'm going to take the tee ball.
You're going to take the tee?
I'm going to take the tee ball. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I feel good about my tee ball.
Okay. And so we got Janauer and Hadwin left for iron play and short game.
Oh man.
Keep in mind we're trying to win tournaments.
Yeah. I'm gonna give Adam the iron play.
Okay.
And I'll give Double J the short game. Jay's got a good short game. He's struggling with his iron play right now, to tell the truth. But I'll give Adam.
Coach him up. We'll get the bump and runs going.
Adam's such a great iron player. And I think he's going to hit so many greens. He's not going to miss many greens. Jay's not going to have to touch the short game much.
Well, see, now there's some good logic there, because now you're just keeping it in play.
Yeah.
And let the heroes do all the heavy lifting.
That's right.
Right? Now, that's fantastic. Fraser, genuinely, this has been a big red circle on my calendar for a long time to get to chat with you. I from afar, I watch everything you're doing, and I catch myself saying, "Hey, I know that guy a lot," and I'm proud to be a friend of yours, and I'm always fascinated with what you do and how you're doing it. I hope the upcoming season has lots of successes in this one and ongoing for as long as you choose to do it, because I think you're fantastic with it. You're great for our industry and just so well respected. So thank you for being around to chat with me.
My pleasure, Derek. It's fascinating to see, you take this leg of your journey in the PGA, and you're doing God's work to get the message out there to introduce many people to who our PGA professionals are, and let them in on what a PGA professional is, more than maybe just a head professional, or even as a head professional, what goes into that. Because I think everyone's got their little idea in a box of what we do, and I think it's far from the truth. So thanks for doing this. I appreciate you inviting me on the show, and good luck with the rest of the season doing that, as well as your teaching journey as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's always a pleasure chatting with you, my friend.
Thanks, Derek. I appreciate it.